There's a specific kind of tired that doesn't show up on your calendar. It doesn't correlate with how many hours you worked or how busy your week was. Sometimes it arrives on a Sunday afternoon when you've done almost nothing. You're sitting on the couch, light streaming through the window, and someone asks if you want to go for a walk or watch a movie or call a friend. And the thought of doing any of those things feels like being asked to climb a mountain. This isn't laziness. It's something else entirely. If you tried to explain it, the words would sound hollow. I'm just tired, you'd say, and the person asking would look at your empty schedule, your comfortable life, your lack of obvious crisis, and you'd see the question in their eyes. Tired of what? You'd struggle to answer because the exhaustion doesn't have a clear source. You haven't been working overtime. No one's sick. There's no disaster. Your life objectively is fine, maybe even good, and yet you feel like you're operating at 60% capacity all the time, and you can't remember when it started or why you can't seem to recover. Psychologists have started paying attention to a kind of depletion that doesn't fit the traditional burnout narrative. It's not about working too hard. It's about something more insidious, the invisible cost of living in a world designed to be easy. Think about what it takes to be a person on an ordinary Wednesday. You wake up and before you've had coffee, you've already made 15 decisions. Which alarm to silence? Whether to check your phone? What to wear informed by weather you have to look up? Clothes you have to remember if they're clean? An outfit that needs to match both your schedule and your mood. Whether to shower now or later? What to eat, which requires knowing what you have, what you want, what's healthy, what's quick, and you haven't even left the house. This is the part we don't talk about. Every convenience in modern life trades effort for attention. You don't have to grow your food, but you have to decide between 7 types of milk. You don't have to wash clothes by hand, but you have to remember to move them to the dryer, sort them, fold them, put them away. Each step is easy. Collectively, they're exhausting. A researcher once described modern life as the accumulation of trivial choices. Individually, they cost almost nothing, but the human brain wasn't designed to make hundreds of micro decisions before lunch. Each one draws from the same cognitive reservoir, and that reservoir is smaller than we think. Here's where it gets strange. The easier your life becomes on the surface, the more complex it becomes underneath. You don't have to walk to the well for water, but you do have to manage 11 different subscriptions, remember 4 passwords, and decide whether you want the algorithm to track you for convenience or protect your privacy for peace of mind. Every solved problem creates a new catalog of options. Every bit of freedom creates a new question to answer. And somewhere in there, without you noticing, you started running on empty. But it's not just decisions. There's another type of work happening that's completely invisible. The psychologist Susan Silk called it emotional labor, though what she described goes beyond emotions. It's the work of maintaining your own existence in a way that keeps everything running smoothly. Remembering birthdays, responding to messages, monitoring how you come across, checking in with people, keeping track of social debts and obligations, who you owe a text, who you haven't seen in too long, whose feelings might be hurt if you don't acknowledge something. This maintenance work never ends because relationships and routines are living things that require constant attention. And most of it happens in your head, which means it doesn't count as real work to anyone, including you. You can spend 3 hours mentally managing your week, coordinating schedules, remembering appointments, anticipating needs, and at the end of it, you've been sitting still. You look lazy, you feel exhausted. Both are true. There's a particular cruelty in this. The fatigue doesn't come with evidence. You can't point to it. There's no visible output, no marked calendar, no sympathetic witness to say, wow, you really did a lot today. You just have the tiredness and the vague sense that you're failing at something. Everyone else seems to handle fine. What makes it worse is that the world has given you permission to rest only when you've earned it through visible effort. If you worked a 12-hour shift, people understand why you're tired. If you spent the day answering emails and managing your internal sense of responsibility, you just seem weak. So you don't rest. You push through. And the gap between how you feel and how your life looks from the outside starts to widen. Psychologists studying self-regulation have found something unsettling. The act of managing yourself, controlling your impulses, monitoring your behavior, staying disciplined, depletes the same mental resources as making decisions. They call it ego depletion, though the term makes it sound more dramatic than it is. It's really just the exhaustion of being in charge of yourself all day. Think about what that includes. not snapping at someone when you're irritated, staying focused when you're bored, being polite when you're tired, choosing the salad when you want the fries, sounding enthusiastic on a Zoom call. Each moment of self-control is small, but you're doing it constantly in every interaction, every choice, every tiny performance of being a functional adult. And no one sees it because the whole point is to make it look effortless. The strangest part is that modern life requires more self-regulation than ever before, not less. Our ancestors had fewer choices, stricter social structures, clearer rules. You were a farmer or a blacksmith or a mother, and the role came with a script. Now you have infinite options and no script, which sounds like freedom but functions like a burden. You have to decide who to be, how to spend your time, what to care about, which opportunities to pursue. You're constantly authoring yourself, and authorship is hard work. And yet, because your life is objectively easier than someone working in a field at dawn, you feel guilty for being tired. There's a specific flavor of modern exhaustion that comes from this guilt. You're tired, but you don't feel entitled to the tiredness, so you override it. You keep going. You say yes to things. You maintain the appearance of capability. And underneath, something starts to hollow out. Hidden burnout doesn't look like collapse, it looks like functioning. You're still showing up, still meeting obligations, still appearing fine. But the internal experience is different. Things that used to be easy now require effort. Things that used to bring joy now feel neutral. You're not depressed exactly, you're just dimmed. Running on reserve power you didn't know you were using until it started running out. Researchers describe this as a state of chronic low-grade depletion. You're never quite full, never quite rested. The tank sits at a quarter full, and you've learned to operate there, so you don't realize how not okay it is until something small pushes you over the edge. A minor inconvenience becomes unbearable. A simple question irritates you. You snap at someone you love and then feel terrible because the reaction was disproportionate. But the truth is, you've been holding it together so tightly that there's no slack left for normal friction. What's insidious about this type of burnout is that it doesn't resolve with a vacation. You can take a week off, feel better for a few days, and then slide right back into the same pattern because the depletion isn't about workload. It's about the structure of your daily existence, the constant decision-making, the invisible maintenance, the self-regulation, the performance of okayness. Those don't stop just because you're at the beach. You need a different kind of rest. Not the absence of work, but the absence of choice. The absence of having to be in charge of yourself. And modern life offers very little of that. There's a reason people report feeling most relaxed when they're following someone else's plan. On a guided tour, in a structured class, at a religious service. It's not about the activity itself. It's about the relief of not having to decide, not having to manage, not having to self-regulate. Someone else is in charge for a while, you can just follow. But most of life doesn't offer that. Most of life is you, alone, managing the endless small tasks of existence, making it look easy because it's supposed to be easy, and wondering why you feel so tired when you haven't really done anything. Here's the thing that nobody mentions. The exhaustion is real. It's not a sign of weakness or poor time management or lack of discipline. It's a rational response to an environment that demands a type of cognitive and emotional labor that's completely unacknowledged. You're not broken. You're just carrying more than you realize in ways that don't show up on any to-do list. And maybe the first step toward feeling better isn't doing more or resting more or optimizing more. Maybe it's just naming it, recognizing that the weight exists, that the easy life is only easy on the surface, that you're not imagining the heaviness, even if you can't point to what's causing it. Because once you see it, you stop expecting yourself to feel energized by a life that's quietly draining you. You stop wondering what's wrong with you, and you start asking a different question entirely. Not, why am I so tired? But what would it look like to actually rest? The answer might surprise you. It's probably not another weekend or another self-care routine. It might be something simpler and stranger. Permission to stop maintaining everything perfectly. Permission to let some decisions go unmade. Permission to exist without performing. Permission to feel the weight you've been carrying so you can finally figure out how to set it down.